All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show here on AIM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It is a joy to be with you today. We're praying for our brothers and sisters out in the children out in California and the wildfires. I mean, we're seeing a lot of the Hollywood stars who are dealing with losing everything. But we are looking at the town, the city of Altadena, which was really settled by Black people. It's a middle class Black and brown community. It's working class. They've lost more than 200 homes there too. So, quite frankly, whether rich or poor, losing your home is a devastating thing. And we see that happen all over the world. And somehow or another, it doesn't mean as much. But now we're watching people who are Americans and who are stars. And it is a shock. But think of Hurricane Katrina. 1.3 million people were moved and removed. Attorney Darrell Jones, Nataki Rhodes, One Fair Wage, Dr. LaShawn Latrice, community psychologist from Make Noise for Change. Can you imagine? That's blowing a hole in someone's life. Can you imagine coming home and seeing nothing? Oh, I'm going to have to ask you about that, Dr. Latrice, what that does to you. Because the Bible tells you to remove not the ancient landmarks which thy fathers and mothers have set, but your landmarks have been removed.
Yeah.
And people are wondering, where was the water? And there's so many questions, so many. And then I think we also have to take a look at who's fighting the fires. Nearly half, roughly half of those who are fighting the fires, who are in harm's way, are prisoners, male and female. No one's really talking about that. They are not paid much at all. That's part of the reason they're incarcerated. And no one looks at them as prisoners. Right now, they're seen as people who are, they are frontline workers. According to this BBC report, the state pays inmates a daily wage of $5.80 and $10.24 an hour. A day, and an additional dollar per day when they are assigned to active emergencies. Nataki Rhodes, that ought to be something that's very, very fascinating to you.
Yes.
Can you imagine $5.80 a day?
Not at
24 a day? While firefighters typically make about 100,000 plus a year. These jobs, that's why we have fought to get the jobs in the police, on the police force. Firefighters, these civil servants really make fine salaries, and they're able to build stable lives and wealth. Well, and tragically, and yes, it is tragic, because once these people have served their time, once they have put their lives on the line, many of them have lost their lives fighting these fires. They cannot come out and make a living as firefighters, although they have the training. But what about people who now find themselves homeless, people who went to work every day? And even our Hollywood stars. Our Hollywood stars, you hear they make millions per picture. Well, I think it was Taraji Henson who said, do you know how my money gets chopped up? By the time I pay the agents, the glam squad, all of these people, out of $1 million, I hope to take home $40,000. I mean, there's a whole lot that's going on here. And think of, when you look in California, it's not just the Hollywood stars. You have people who clean the studios. You have people who drive for the television shows. And I mean, it's an industry. And it's been completely disrupted. So let's talk about these California wildfires and what they mean. I mean, there's a human cost. And there's also, Attorney Darrell Jones, there's another cost, because guess what? These people, many of these unhoused people now, and they are now unhoused. They have gone to find out how their houses were doing, and they're not there. They have to pay their mortgages, Attorney Darrell Jones. in many, if not most instances. How does that work? Attorney Jones, I mean, huh?
Well, Santita, you're right on it. And, the underlying premise has got to be that we've got to remember this is all business, right? This isn't about friendliness and being pro-family, right? For the insurance companies, this is about business. For the lending institutions, this is about business. They're in the business of lending money. And if you're lending money, loaning money, the only way you're going to make money is when the money gets paid back with interest. And so that's what the concentration is on this. So when it comes down to the homeowner in this situation, the homeowner is the one who's going to be paying. The benefit for the homeowner is supposed to be they get to live in whatever the home is that they've qualified to live in. When you're dealing with a mortgage, however, the lender, right, the mortgage company, they want to be certain that you have some type of insurance on the home. So if the home is destroyed, that they still will be able to receive the money that they've loaned to you, the value of the loan. That's their focus. That's their principal focus is money. Once something happens, for instance, the home burns down through an accidental fire or act of God or whatever it may be, the mortgage company, the lender, is going to get their money back because that's why they're requiring you to have the insurance so that they can get their money back. Even though they get their money, back, if they are fully covered from the insurance, then the homeowner doesn't owe the mortgage anymore and doesn't owe the mortgage anything. Of course, they have no place to live and they have nothing that's there. If they do not have sufficient insurance to cover the cost of the home, then the homeowner is still on the hook for whatever the shortage is that they owe to the mortgage company. There's no forgiveness that's there. It's not automatic. So whatever you borrow, you've got to pay back, and that's what the mortgage company is doing and is experiencing. So when we deal with what's happening in California, if your home burns down and you do not have insurance, because a lot of folks now are foregoing the insurance because of the
Wait a minute. Hold on, Daryl. They had policies that they started canceling them in July.
Absolutely.
And it accelerated until the end of the year.
Mm-hmm. And the reason that was happening is that when you're dealing with the insurance side of it, right? The insurance side is supposed to be like, okay, just in case something should happen, if there's a possibility, we're going to have you covered. They don't want to deal with the fact that if it's going to be something that's almost a definitive, if this is certainly going to happen, we don't want to cover that. We don't. No, we don't want to cover a certainty. We want to cover the accidental thing that it might happen, but it's not a foregone conclusion that it will. So the insurance company, when they started canceling policies, they're like, no. In these particular areas, there are too many. There's too great a likelihood of a fire for us to cover it, because what's happening now is that we're seeing all these fires that are occurring there. And we know that it's more likely than not that your home's going to catch on fire and we're going to have to pay. We're looking for accidental stuff. We're not looking for stuff that's really a certainty that's probably going to happen. And so what the insurance companies then start to do is they start to cancel those policies, back out of the policies in those areas where there's a greater possibility that these fires are going to occur. And that's what was happening in California, that these areas were being designated. In Chicago and some of other areas around the country, you used to call it redlining, right? They redline these areas and say, this is where this is likely to happen. We are not going to cover in these areas. It's not worth the risk. It's not worth the risk for the insurance company to cover it. So that's what they're getting stuck with. And then, on top of that, you had the state of California that said, okay, we have all these private insurance companies that are backing off and saying they're not going to cover in these, and I'm going to continue to use my word, these red line districts, because they're too hot, they're too great a possibility to catch on fire. So what the state of California says that, okay, we're going to do our own insurance, right? We're going to do this insurance where if it's one of those areas where it's a high probability that something will happen, they call it the FAIR plan, right? The possibility that something will happen, we're going to cover you. But here's the niche to that, right? Here's the catch to that. The catch to that is this, is that they're going to raise the premium, so the cost for the homeowner is going to be much higher than what it would be on the private side. And then after they've raised the premium, they're going to lower the things that they cover and the availability of the coverage of all of this stuff. So you're getting less coverage, you're paying more money for it, and you're the homeowner. This is from the state. And this is the only thing that's going to be offered to you, because none of the private people want to cover it, because you're in one of those hot zones with regards to the probability that your house is going to catch on fire, and they don't want to lose money. So that in a nutshell is the conundrum that the homeowners find themselves in the state of California. The weird part and the odd part of it, Santita, to me, is this. If you are in California, everyone, I've always encouraged people to always have homeowners insurance, because you don't know what's going to happen, and you want to be certain that whatever happens with your home is covered, whether someone gets hurt or if a tree falls on it, whatever it is, you want to be certain that it's covered. But the downside of it is this. If you're in a family that has owned the home for generations, the home may now be paid off.
Yeah.
Once the home is paid off, there'd be no requirement. No one's going to require, like a mortgage company, that you have insurance. You don't need to have insurance. You're not required to have insurance. It's not mandated by the state you have insurance. But if your home burns down, you're on your own. No one's coming in. No one's required to do anything to help for the loss that you've experienced now that your home is gone. And that includes replacement, meaning you've got to find a place now to live. You've got to find a hotel. You've got to find an apartment, and all this other stuff. So all of that is the conundrum that folks find themselves in the state of California with regards to what's happening from the fire.
And you might even need to find a job.
And you need to find, yeah.
I mean, a lot of people, the physical structures in which they worked, where they might have had to clock in Nataki roads, they're gone. They're even talking about delaying the Oscars. It might sound like a trivial thing, but look, Hollywood is big business. But when you get to the Oscars, it's just like you've got people who drive you to the Oscars. Those are jobs. You have food that is prepared backstage. Yeah. You have events. That's food. And there are servers. I mean, we can just keep on going with this. Yeah. All of that's been disrupted. And we're looking at people who are working hard every day. California is not just full of wealthy people, everybody. You got a lot of working class people who can't afford to live in LA, or they live in LA and they're trying to figure it out, because California is prohibitively expensive. It's ridiculous. Wealthy people are moving to Vegas. Right. They're getting out of there. It's too much money. That having been said, I mean, now you have people, who really, you've been with One Fair Wage, you've been working to get people above the sub minimum. and now this.
Yes.
I mean, and it's so ironic. Attorney Jones and Dr. Latrice, she said, you know what? One Fair Wage was just meeting about this, about what you do when there's a catastrophe. And I cannot wait to hear what you guys to tell us and what you got to tell us, Dr. Latrice, because I can't even, to me, this is mind blowing. And seeing these families and seeing persons on TV and just seeing them go to their homes and see ash. And that's right, Robert. All kinds of jobs are lost. They're lost. I mean, Nataki, what do you do? And where do you even begin? How do you even talk with these people? And as they try to rebuild, they said it's going to take years to rebuild. I wonder, will they be able to have the Olympics there?
I mean, for them to even just wrap their head just to get over the fact that they lost their jobs. Many of whom are tip workers, working in the bars and the high-end restaurants. And so them workers, they were making good tips, when you work in high-end places like that. The Oscars parties are coming up, all of the high-end events that's coming up that allows workers to make good tips while they're working. All of that is gone. And so it's devastating. It's a devastation. It's tragedy. It's like COVID all over again, but without the resignation. We COVID was the great resignation for a lot of tip workers to say, hey, I'm no longer working for this low minimum wage anymore. And so the COVID showed us that we can do and we can demand for higher wages. And so with this is you're making the wage, you're making the money, and now your job and your home is gone. And you are still responsible for paying for the mortgage to your home. You're still responsible for taking care of your children. And the next biggest thing is they're going to be responsible for your family's health that comes after this. And it's tragic. It's very tragic, devastating, and we're definitely going to be aiding and assisting workers in California as much as possible, as much as resources that we can give and help out through One Fair Wage. And I know this week coming up, we're going to be having a meeting about how we're going to have a plan to help these devastating workers that has lost everything. I mean, just everything. And your job is everything. Your home is everything. And hopefully, we don't know how many workers we have lost already. The death toll, I think, was like 17 people. And so them numbers are probably going to go up. And so we are experiencing a tragic loss, especially in the service industry. It's been really hit hard because a lot of them are bars, restaurants, tip workers, dishwashers, servers, valet people. They have lost their jobs. And then for the next tragedy is, and I know Dr. LaShawn definitely can speak to the exploitation of the incarceration of the brothers and sisters that are incarcerated, that is being exploited for their wages. They're doing a job that actually pays over $50,000 a year, and you're getting only $5 an hour. That's exploitation. And so when they come out, they can't even get this same job. But once again, in the case of disaster, in the case of emergency, they will go to the prison and exploit the prisoners that's there with these low minimum wages that they're giving them and that they're receiving. And it's a tragic that they can't come out and still get these same firefighter jobs and still get the same benefits, but at the same time they have to be forced to help save California to from devastation of this fire. And so it's a lot of tragedy that's going on. I know a lot of loved ones, a lot of people with their loved ones that's incarcerated hate that their family are being exploited like this
Oh
in
my
such
God.
a wage level. Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
Natalia,
they had,
I know,
yeah,
I
please.
apologize, Natalia. I
No,
know that you were talking about the exploitation of the inmates, of the state inmates, and you were referring to $10 an hour. That's
Yes.
kind. That's not what they get. They get $10 per
It's a
day.
day.
Per
It's a
day.
Oh,
day.
it's a day.
Yeah,
Oh,
per
that's
day. You, you
oh,
know.
I thought
580.
sentence.
It's
Oh
it
No,
no,
no, no.
no.
ranges
That's
too.
580. I googled
580.
it
oh,
myself.
okay.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
that's
580.
even
Five
egregious.
dollars and 80 cents
Oh wow.
to a little more than 10 and a quarter a day, and they get a
Yeah.
dollar more per day
Oh, okay. Thank
if
you for
it's a little bit more
correcting me.
difficult. I mean,
Okay.
no, this is like pure. I mean,
Wow.
before we pivot to you, Dr. LaShawn Latrice, this is the 13th Amendment,
Mhm.
Daryl Jones.
Hmm.
Okay, you're free from slavery except
Yes.
what?
Yep. Yep.
Except for
Unless you.
when what?
Involuntary.
Yep. Yep. Unless you're incarcerated.
Involuntary.
Right. Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
And they are doing this to these people. And so when you have people who become angered by the fact, because we've heard a lot over the past few years about people who said, wait a minute, we were we were incarcerated for nonviolent offenses,
Hmm.
um, and sometimes we were held in jail longer than we should have been in California.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And we were held there to work. They have wildfires every year.
Mhm.
So they don't need to expand the firefighters force. And so they're giving the mayor a hard time for um, cutting the firemen's budget. She's got to find money somewhere to deal with all of these homeless people. And many of them are not people who are non-citizens. They are citizens who can't afford to live in California, but they got to go to work.
Right.
California is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Boston is ridiculous. Washington is ridiculous. Daryl, you know it. It's ridiculous. Chicago's getting ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Living in the urban world, I'm like, my goodness. And then you go to these stores, Dr. Latrice, and they are eliminating jobs. I'm like, how is this supposed to work? You're gonna have a world without people? I don't get it. But I mean, what do you make of this? Because I mean, you're seeing the images, and I know as a psychologist. And interestingly enough, I had never heard of this until I met you, a community psychologist, because to me, this is like a collective tragedy that everybody's experiencing, right?
Yes.
It's a community tragedy. It's something that's shared by everybody. And and it's so interesting. Jamie Curtis, the famed actress, the Oscar award-winning actress, Tony Curtis's daughter. I mean, we've known and loved her, and she's become this great actor in her own right. She said, this she has put up $1 million to help it with the relief campaigns.
Mhm.
And when she said this, it looks like the Middle East, that we've been looking at. She got so much pushback. But one of my best friends lives there in the hills. And I'm like, hey, I couldn't reach her for a couple of days, and several other dear friends. And so finally, I was like, I'm so glad I found you. Are you okay? She said, look, was trying to reach you too, but it's been a little sketchy here. We're good. And I said, what's going on? She said, it looks like Gaza. Now, mind you, she's up in the hills. She lives in a beautiful home. She said, and it's raining ash all day. And it's not just ash, it's the micro plastic particles. It's the asbestos.
Yes.
Dr. Latrice, what do you make of this?
I'm telling you, I am devastated, and I don't live in California. I was just watching the news broadcast, and just to see what was actually happening on the ground was unreal to me. And I had so many questions because I was trying to say, is anybody looking for the source? Like, where is this starting from? How does it? All I could do was envision where I live, my community, or walking down the street, all of that burning on fire. And I was saying, how in the world can this happen? That's my question. I have had several questions. I've been watching several broadcasts to see the devastation that has happened in the community. And you can see these people's faces when they come on there, the ones that are talking about what they lost or how they had to go in and save a neighbor, all these things. Could you imagine the trauma that goes along with that? And then I coupled it with just coming out of the holiday season and going into this whole devastation of looking up and a whole community and a whole city is on fire. It is unbelievable to me and unfathomable. And I don't know how. It seems like it's going on in California, but it seems like a large portion of the world is almost like going on with business as usual. And then to learn that people have lost their lives, people are continuing to lose their lives, and then they've taken a group of people who they deem not in control of their own lives, and they plop them down into the midst of this very dangerous environment. So I can imagine there is so much trauma going on. People are thinking, how are we going to survive? How are we going to come out of this? Where are we going to get resources from? When everything is gone, it's almost like you're hopeless. And so where does that hopelessness turn into something else? How? And I know that there are people making donations. I've seen a few myself. I was glad to see that. But I'm also wondering, when you run out of water, how do you put fires out without water? How do you breathe in an environment that is overcome with ash and asbestos and all this smoke. So it's other things that people are going to have to contend with when you're talking about health issues that come from being in an environment that's overcome with flames and smoke and ash. It's so disheartening. I don't understand how it's able to happen, and I don't really understand how it was not able to be controlled. So it sounds like there were several fires from different angles, and somehow or another they were able to just overcome the areas. And I really think people did not believe that it would hit them, and so it looked like
Say
there
that.
was not a lot of. And the reason why I said this is because in the past, whenever we've heard of fires before, people were alarmed, but it was almost like, well, I don't have to run because it's not going to pass this point. And at the point it is now, it's just, I mean, I could just imagine being a resident in California right now where they are.
Of course, Dr. Latrice, the other side of that is you can't afford to go anywhere. If you couldn't afford to go anywhere, you're stuck. I've got to hunker down and pray that this doesn't hit me, that this doesn't happen to me. So, I like not to assume that people have the ability to just up and move, the financial ability to just up and go someplace. They may not have someplace to go. And, and Santita, I know that we've talked about this previously on other topics. This is a perfect making for business owners that now want to gouge, right?
Yeah.
Because people are losing stuff. The price of everything is up. You need a room to stay in. The room that I had that was $500 is now $5,000. Or whatever amount of money they can get for it. This is the perfect making for all of that. So, I agree with you wholeheartedly, Dr. Latrice, that this is certainly a very depressing and can be a very depressing piece that people experience as a result of all that's going on. Because it's like the what is it? The pebble that becomes the boulder as it's rolling down the hill gathers.
Yes.
That's what like it's coming for you. That's what it looks like it's coming for you from this.
But that is what's happening. I mean, I'm trying to find out, where people get the relief, because
Right.
I paid into my insurance claim and you canceled it. You canceled it. So does that mean I don't get any of my money out? I mean, I can't cash out. I can't cash out of the policy that I paid into. So I just pay. I sent good money after I sent good money after what I thought was good money, but it's a bad company, bad policy, and they continue to stay in business. I mean, how is this supposed to work? And then I've got the state. The state has exorbitantly high rates. So how am I supposed to make it? And the thing is, I don't think they were getting the whole story. I see Robert Williams has said, my cousin originally from Chicago, they live in South Central. And he was told by his cousin that the fire is only 6 miles from him. And that soot is all on the cars. I'm talking to people who are all over LA, and they say, no one's untouched by this.
Right.
You see the fires all around LA, but there's a reason LA is one of the most congested cities in the nation. Because, people don't live in the center of Los Angeles. LA is almost like a collection of suburban areas that are connected into central LA. And it is Los Angeles, but it's different areas in LA. And so this is South Central. South Central, as we know, is black, it's brown, it's working class, it's poor, it's middle class. In some places, it is upper middle class. No one's talking about them. No one. I mean, you had to push to hear about Altadena.
Yeah. And Inglewood as well. You have
Okay.
Inglewood in right there. And the devastation about this is that the insurance company is going to, as you say, yes, is business, but this is the business that we chose to do. So as the people, they still have to hold some accountability. And so I think, people are going to start suing these insurance companies, or either the government is going to have to, Congress, the Senate, they're going to have to hold these insurance companies accountable to a bailout, what we call a bailout. And so they're going to have to bail their clients out, the workers out, the state of California out, because if a person has lost everything and they lost their job, their source of income, there is no way you're telling we cannot accept an insurance company or a mortgage company saying, oh, well, get out there and find a way, because there is no way. And so there's not going to be some type of relief or something for the next month, six months to a year, that this can go on. And so if you've been a dishwasher for 17 years at this restaurant, and you finally able to get your house and your home and everything, and this type of tragedy happens, it should be, and we as the people will have to demand for the government to come in to bail out these people with these mortgages, the insurance, or either with the insurance company, because to put this type of tragedy and burden, and then to say strap it up by your boots and come up all over again, that's going to be impossible. And you're talking about the mental health. People have lost they have lost the hospitals down there. You've seen seniors getting wheeled out of the senior facility where they were getting treatment at. So it's a whole lot of trauma that's going on, and it's all financial. Everything is financial. Everything is financial. Everything comes down to dead presidents on the dollar. So
Let's
the
just say
state of
the people are not getting those dead presidents on the dollar. The corporations are winning.
Yes, and that's the demand that we're going to have to organize and demand that this is unacceptable, and we're not going to stand for that. And it's the time, for that.
And see, and Solomon, thank you. You're so sweet to me. And that's right. The LAX airport is in Inglewood. And I mean, and that's already a lot because of all the toxins. Because when you're driving over to the airport, the plane is literally above your head. It's just But then you have to think about, Solomon said, then you have to think about the future illnesses coming down the road from the smoke, similar to 9/11, and it's raining over LA County. See, when I was talking to one of my girlfriends, both of our fathers have Parkinson's. So my concern was, I was like, girl, how's it going? And how's your dad doing? She was like, he's fine, but wow, it is. Your filters can't filter all of that out. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. And I'm like, how do you make that right? This is like the second most populous city in the country. And see, and part of this is climate change. It could be you could have some bad actors there. There's no question about that. And it could be acts of God. The wildfires are part of it, but they've had climate changes, which worsened this, right? So I mean, so my question is now, where do we go from here? I mean, and what are we fighting for? Because now everyone is looking at Donald Trump, and they're very upset. And some people are, and some people are saying that maybe he'll get this right. Look, he's going to be the president. Well, you know what? I don't know what he's going to do, Daryl. I do know that when you apply enough political pressure, you could make a lot of people do a lot of things. Okay? Because I'm going to tell you, his people are getting hit the people who supported him. And a chunk of them are black men.
Yeah,
My
but
appeal would be to them and to everybody, because we're all Americans here. At the end of the day, he's the president for everybody, period. And somebody's got to make this right. You can't have all these people homeless. And then the insurance companies, they just cancel the plan and I get no money from you after I've been paying you.
And that's the saddest part, I think, Santita,
Yes.
that the homeowners were doing the right thing. They were getting insurance in case something happened. They were doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And then the something happens, and the insurance company say, "Oh, you know what? No, we're not going to be paying these out." Or they say, "Sue us. Do it. We ain't paying. We're not going to pay. We're going to delay and deny. We're not going to pay you." And so you end up in that situation. And when we talk about the legislative response, the governmental response, the concern that I have, and again, we don't know what the president-elect is going to do, but what we do know is this: is that they're focused on deregulation, not regulation. Deregulation is why the insurance company is doing what they're doing, because they're figuring that you're not going to regulate us. You're not going to put these requirements upon us. What we know is happening in California is that the state legislature is attempting to say to the insurance companies, the home insurance companies there, that if you are going to be writing policies and fire policies, you cannot completely discriminate against these hot zone areas where fires have happened. You've got to at least match, I think it's like 85% of the policies you write that are in the hot zones have got to be consistent with what you've written in the other zones to try to provide some level of protection for those homeowners. The saddest part to me of all of this is that the homeowner is trying to do that which is right. The mortgage company is going to require insurance. They're getting the insurance. The insurance company then cancels, the home then burns. The homeowner is now stuck with the bill. They're stuck with the mortgage. They still got to pay it. They still have to, the credit company, the mortgage company doesn't care. They want their money. They want their money because that's their business. So
And then they could sue me.
and then not they can, they will.
Well, but see, then my question is this, because I don't have the house. Is this a land grab? I mean, look, I'm not, look, I don't even use the term conspiracy theorist because that was something that the CIA put in place so people would stop asking questions when they smelled a rat. And we need to stop using that because we're being conditioned in the wrong direction. My question is, okay, if I have nothing to give you but my land, is that what I'm supposed to give you? Is that what this is?
Mortgage company doesn't want your land. They want your money. That's what they want, the money, not the land. Because if they get the land, they've got to sell it again. They want the money.
But the wealth is in the land. Do you know what makes King Charles the wealthiest human being on earth? He and his mother was the wealthiest person on earth. They are the largest landowners on earth. That's why Bill Gates is buying up all this land. If you look, these folks are not buying cars. They're not even buying buildings. They're buying huge swaths of states.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always the fear with gentrification. What made America unique was that we were the only industrialized country that really allowed you to buy land. You could own land, and when you own land, that means that if you strike oil on your little patch of grass, it belongs to you. But if you look in your contracts now, more and more, you own your house, but you don't own the land.
Right.
And that for me is like, wait a minute, what did Michael Brandon say? The California Commissioner started a year moratorium against insurance companies, but not the banks, regarding mortgages. What about the renters? What about the renters? We're not even talking about them. What, Jackie?
I said that, tip workers and service workers, they had their apartment buildings and they're paying rent. Now their building is gone. And so what about that, and what about how they just lost their whole apartment and no, they're not responsible for a mortgage, but they were paying rent. And so when you talk about the homeless, they are going to be one of the first homeless the homeless people to hit. I mean, yes, the homeowners, but they are gonna be able to. They can do a whole movement against the insurance company, whatever. But when you're a renter, it's not like I can go say, "Hey, Dr. LaShawn, hurry up and get this building back up and running because all my stuff." Do I sue the landlord because of all my stuff is gone? And then I know a lot of people is gonna say, well, you should have renters insurance and
Mhm.
everything like that. So, you will have to deal with that if you can. But it's gonna be a real tough time for all of the service workers that's in the service industry, of the things that of their home, losing their home or losing the apartment that they were living in, and now they're subject and have to go to a shelter or have to seek somewhere to find. And so it's going to take a lot for Governor Newsom to step up. It's going to take a lot for the people of California to step up and put the demand on now, that this is what they want, nothing less than what we want. And they can put the pressure on the lawmakers to give them what they want and to hold these insurance companies accountable. All State Farm, whoever these people are that has these insurance policies. And yes, they can sit back and say, no, we're not going to do it. But also, the state of California is a viable state to our economy. So that's a loss to our economy as well in the United States. And definitely to service and tip workers, because if service and tip workers are not working and in the service industry, then there's no money being made and there's no money being spent.
Well, my concern now, Daryl and Nataki and Dr. LaShawn Latrice, this is for you. We talk about people being on the edge. Now, all of us remember the song, Don't Push Me because I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me
Hmm.
wonder how I keep from under. Now, Dr. Latrice, I'm just trying to tell you.
Go, sister. Go, Miss
Come
Jackson.
on, don't sleep on me, girl. I know what's
Okay.
up. Okay, I know all of Rapper's Delight. Don't try me. Boom.
Yes.
Who used to have those battles in high school? Oh yes. Y'all just trying. Is this Carolyn Griffey? I love you, girl. This is my California girl. You remember Solar Records? You know
Yes.
Shalimar? She's Shalimar.
Shalimar,
Yeah.
yes.
Wow.
This is
Wow.
Dicky's daughter. They own
Wow.
Shalimar Records. I mean Solar Records. This is Shalimar. This is the Whispers. Oh, that's my girl. She's my sister. I love her. And we had big fun out in California, girl, didn't we? Yes. Yes, my girl. Yes, we did. Yes. But see, my thing is now you got a lot of people who are very disturbed.
Hmm.
I mean, they were already upset about the eggs and inflation
Mhm.
and looming homelessness, because a lot of people are on the verge of homelessness in California, as they are all over the country.
Right.
Because people cannot get from payday to Monday. My friend Lynn Richardson has that book. It's a brilliant concept, but it's true. People are struggling now more than ever before, and you had the Democrats in particular telling you, well, yeah, but let me tell you, technically, you're not really hurting. Technically, things are getting better. It was like, shut up! Don't say that.
It's not.
It's not true.
Not
So, I
true.
mean, what happens, Dr. Latrice, when you got all these people? Because now you got people who never thought that they would be in this position. I mean, like never ever.
Right.
And you see them coming apart emotionally on TV. Now,
Mm-hmm.
mind you, other folks who shall remain nameless in another part of the world, millions of them have been bombed out of their homes,
Mhm.
and we just gone, oh well, they need to go to
Hmm.
another country, huh? Now you have people who never, ever, ever, ever thought this would happen to them. Not when I'm living in a mansion that is 5, 10, 15, 20, $30 million. No. And then you have working people who were not in the hills, they're in the valley.
Yes.
So they're like, okay, I know this is not going to happen. People in South Central looking at it like they were 6 miles from me now. Wait, really? So okay, so what? You saw this with Hurricane Katrina. You saw this in North Carolina. You see this all the time, Daryl. You just made the point. When they give you the emergency order to leave, where do you go? You have to have money to go.
Right.
Wait, you got to get a paycheck, which you might be in the middle of a pay period, which means you ain't gonna get your money.
Mm-hmm.
So, Dr. Latrice, I only have about 5 minutes left here. I want you to tell me, what do you expect to see people doing? Because to me, I think we got a mental health problem out there.
Yes. I see it coming just with watching some of the stories. We have to realize that real disaster is no respecter of persons. So it doesn't matter what your income level is. It doesn't matter where you live. When there is a disaster, something that is uncontrollable, just out of control, your own control, there creates a level of anxiety because, like you said, people often think, well, I live in this type of environment, this type of home, I make this kind of money, so this can never happen to me. But COVID proved all of that wrong. And I still say, when we think about this, the emotional implications that come with it are phenomenal because there are people now who are, like you say, 6 miles away from something happening, and there might not be a true refuge. There may not be a true place of safe haven. Because what I'm trying to wrap my mind around is, how do you provide safety measures when you can't even provide water, when you don't even have enough people to fight the disaster? So it's not like we can just go construct a building and say everybody hide in there. So people are probably thinking of all these things. And like you said, Attorney Daryl Jones, now people can't afford to move. So they're moving back and forth, trying to go around certain things. But what happens when there's nowhere else to run? So people are contending with all these type of decisions and thoughts and things like that. The level of anxiety has to be through the roof, the emotional turmoil that they're going through. And then those who know personally people who have lost their lives. All of that coupled together is more than a notion. But I do think that the federal government is going to have to come in. They're going to have to place some sort of regulatory measures on these insurance companies, because if I've paid you for 20 years and on the 21st year, you just decide, oh, I'm sick of those fires, you're not going to be my customer anymore. They have to now figure how those implications affect that insurance company. And that might be a thing that we have to band together and fight for, because until it is an issue that affects those who are in the oligarch, their friends, their families, their loved ones, then of course it becomes something that gets pushed to the forefront. So I think this disaster is so huge that it has hit so many levels that it's far beyond what we could even imagine. And there are a lot of people who probably would otherwise not ever have paid this any attention if it did not hit their doorstep. And so now it's going to be a collective effort. It has to be. And we're gonna hear that real soon. There's no way that the government can ignore insurance companies bagging out on their customers who they've had for years. They're going to have to worry about renters. They're going to have to worry about people who have nowhere to go at all.
We've already seen this. That's what we've been talking. We've been talking about insurance for the past month because of the tragedy in New York. I mean, and you have people who are being pushed up against the wall. What's it, Chris Christopherson? I'm a musician, so I think of these lyrics. Me and Bobby McGee, there's a line that says, "Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose." When you have taken everything from everybody, that is a group of people that bear watching. These people have nothing. Everything that was about, people lost their family, their parents' ashes, their children's ashes.
Yeah, birth certificates.
They have nothing.
Nothing.
So now they're like, you know what? And when they call FEMA, and FEMA's like, well, you just hold. We're gonna get back to you. How are you gonna get back to me? And then my insurance company, wait a minute, I paid into, so you mean to tell me I can't get any money from you? Nothing? Natasha, I got a minute for you. What do you say?
I'm thinking about ID when you said that. I'm thinking about social security cards. I'm thinking about birth certificates. How do you go and replace these things that you're going to need to show FEMA, to show this, to show that as a worker? Like, it's just, it's going to be a very stressful time. And that's why we have to make sure that we stand and support our brothers and sisters here as we have done abroad, but even this has hit home, and this makes us think, like, what do we need to do as an individual and as a community and as a people to be able to help when the tragedy is like this has happened. And I did watch your other show with Dr. Turner on there. And one thing he did point out is that accountability in these institutions, and that we as the faith leaders and these faith leaders are going to have to hold the institutions accountable for the great homelessness that's going to face in California right now.
Well, you know, Carol Soskin and my sisters out there in Beverly Hills sending you much love, Carol. I pray that you remain safe. And look, if you can, if you don't feel safe, get out, Carol, please. And more than that, continue to let us know, your Morningstar family, how you're doing and where you are. Mayor Bass, she says, invited Trump to come here and see the devastation, and he should. He should. He should go there. Attorney Daryl Jones, of course, you and Attorney Barbara Arnwine are on WOL every Tuesday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. Please, 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 please listen to their show. The final minute belongs to you. I mean, there's a lot that we've been unpacking here, but I just had to put it all out there because the longer this goes, because I'm looking at CNN right now and they're saying that the Palisades fires, for example, and they continue to look at the Palisades. Palisades is the wealthy area. No one's talking about Altadena.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah, where all the black people built up that community, where
And Brown.
the people are working and everything. Nobody's talking about that, but that's going to be
No, we are.
we
That's
are.
that's our
Yes,
job. So I'm not waiting on them.
that's right.
We're talking about it. We're going to talk about it. I am not going to worry about what these other folks are not doing. I'm going to do it myself.
That's right.
Everybody protects their interests. Now, these are my interests. These people over here. Actually, I'm compassionate enough to care about everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But the least of these, Jesus said, if you offend them, if you don't do right by them, you have hurt me too. And that's how I feel. Bomb, boom, bit, bam, boomalam. Daryl Jones. I mean it. I mean, because we're watching this play
That
out.
is
These
right there.
who are in North Carolina, in the hills. The hills are frozen. They're in tents. They are in trailers that have no heat. And we are cutting checks to Ukraine and other countries right now. And we're telling American citizens that there's nothing for them. This is their money. It's our money.
That's
And
right.
you mean to tell, I don't care what color you are. It's wrong. You don't treat black, brown, yellow, red, white people like this. You don't treat any of God's children like this. And people ought to have a sense of righteous anger about it. And I don't mean it should be violent. No, we shouldn't turn on each other. We need to turn to each other. If the insurance companies are not going to behave properly, they need to be out of business. They're not the first people we're not first entities to go under.
That's right.
You hold the public trust, Daryl Jones.
That's right.
When you oversee anything. And if you are not a good steward, it needs to be withdrawn from you. And if this is a poor business model, then it needs to end. Mm-hmm. I can't pay into something and I can't get my money out when I need it. Right. I got to bargain with you and prove to you that do you think I want to sit on the phone with you for an hour or 2 or 3 hours or a few days? Are you for real? Daryl, that last minute after my rant belongs to you.
No, thank you, Santita. And I think that you're right on the point on several issues.
Right on
One of the
point.
issues that I think you're most on point with is this. We cannot sit back and wait for someone to tell us when
That's
we're in
right.
pain,
Yeah.
when we're hurting. You know when you're hurting. It's up to us to stand up and yell to the top of our lungs, however we can, wherever we can, that we're in pain so that people can hear it. So we can find elected officials that will respond to the pain that we're feeling with policies to put in place. And we need to elect those public officials and to get rid of those that don't. This what's happening in California didn't just happen within the last 3 or 4 weeks. This has been something that's been building over years. I mean, since
Yep.
2020, 2023, over that
Talk
3 year
about it.
span, the insurance companies have not renewed some 2.8 million policies. Why? Because of the fire issue. This isn't new. It's just now it's hit this expensive community, this big community, and now everyone else is seeing the devastation that is, with regards to the insurance companies. Mind you, of the 2.8 million policies that have not been renewed by these companies, 500,000 are in LA County. 500,000 are in LA County. So when we're talking about raising the voice, we've got to raise the voice. If we don't raise our voice, who's going to raise it for us? We would be crazy to depend on somebody else to argue about our concerns. We know our concerns. We feel our concerns. Santita, bless you for bringing our concerns to the forefront so everybody can hear what's going on in this community.
Well, thank you so much. But you know what?
And one more thing
I
I
have to
gotta
cut off.
say is that
I literally have a minute. You got
we
under a
got
minute.
to make sure, you say what we can do, make sure that Donald Trump hold him accountable for the EPA office. This is real climate change. This is Mother Nature's at showing us if you don't take care of the planet, this is what's gonna happen.
And you know what? You're absolutely right. And what we have to do is don't decide to withdraw from being engaged in your government because
That's
the
right.
person who you wanted to win did not win. The mistake that we made in 2008 was we took our foot off the gas.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the time to do that. You have to press the people you love, the people you voted for, to do your job because now they're the president of everyone. Barack Obama was right. He said, I'm president of all America, y'all. And he's right. But what we didn't do was say, but you wouldn't be there without me. So what I need you to do is come through for me. Period. I don't want to hear anything else. If you don't come through for me, you're going to feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Your mama and daddy told you that. I love you. But guess what? You can stay in this house under certain conditions. You're going to obey my rules.
Mm-hmm.
My parents were like that. You broke curfew, my mother wouldn't let you in the door. She gave you a lovely pillow and a blanket on the back porch. She eventually let you in, but you were so scared. And because you knew once she let you in, she was going to get you, dad was going to get you, and then your other siblings were going to get you. We were going to get you. We will get you. Well, what? So come on, y'all. Now is the time to fight. And we don't need to turn on each other. We need to turn to each other. We don't need any more violence. But I tell you what, you need to put these companies out of business. If they don't do right by you, put them out. Enough. And rebuild everybody's home. If you're gonna make life right for people in Ukraine, if Haiti is going to make things, they didn't even make things right for France. If they have to pay France to be free, oh no, you're gonna make things right for me. And we gotta do that.
That's right.
We have to do that. And you have to know that you are somebody and that you matter. Make it happen, everybody. I'm Santita Jackson. Let's talk about Haiti in the next hour. Let's do that. I'm sending you much love. Nataki Rhodes, One Fair Wage, Dr. LaShawn Latrice making noise for change. But she is also a psychologist. Watch it. Don't say any more. She's judging you. She's judging you. Attorney General Jones, Transformative Justice Coalition, and of course, host of his own show on WOLD in DC. But you can hear that everywhere. 12 noon Eastern Standard Time every Tuesday. Sending you all much love, everybody. I love you. Stay with me. Roll on to the next hour. Let's talk about Haiti and why that is so important.
All right.
More of the Santita Jackson Show on AM 950 Radio, the progressive voice of Minnesota.